tonight. These are like our most fun board meetings when we have kids in the audience and we get to honor everyone. The first thing we'll do is we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you again for being here tonight. This is the exciting time in the spring. We get to do this once in the winter and once in the spring where we honor all of our students. I know this is a very busy evening and a very busy time for all of us. So thank you for being here. The first school we'd like to honor tonight is our early childhood, and we honor them by watching an adorable video about all that they've accomplished over the last semester. I'm sorry, okay, Kristen?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I want to thank Ms. Clemens and her entire staff for all the work they do with our little learners every day. So now for some adorable... Those little ones does not bring a smile to your face every single day. Something's wrong. So thank you for everything. Next up, let's bring up Mark Twain. Dr. Easterbrook, if you'd like to come on down. And we'll ask Ryan Dotson to help hand out our honor.
Hey, good evening. Thank you, board, parents, community members, teachers. Thanks for coming this evening. Again, this is one of our most favorite times of the year, and I absolutely am honored to get to be here tonight. Before I introduce our outstanding student, let me tell you a little bit about how we got here. This year earlier, the St. Louis County Department of Health sponsored the 2025 Healthy Living Poster Calendar Contest. And that was for students in grades K-12 all across St. Louis County in 12 different schools. The purpose of that contest was to initiate discussions and to encourage healthy habits with one of the 7 themes of hygiene, physical activity, positive ways to reduce and prevent stress, healthy eating, saying no to drugs and alcohol, and being a good friend. So again, students throughout the St. Louis County submitted these entries, and only 13 students across the counties were honored to have their photos selected to become part of the annual calendar. And tonight it is my honor to get to recognize Molly Gahn. Molly, you want to come on up here, please? Molly is one of our second grade students, and her vibrant and creative work was selected as one of the winners to be featured in our calendar. This calendar is going to be seen and enjoyed by families across the region throughout the entire year. Molly, would you like to hold up your photo over here and show them which one you did? She's Miss June. the amazing talent that she has, but it highlighted the importance of healthy habits in a way that it was both inspiring and joyful. As part of her recognition, Molly is also going to receive her a gift certificate to the St. Louis Zoo. Her picture is displayed in the calendar, and she received several copies to share with her friends and family. So Molly, we are so proud of you, your creativity, your hard work, and for helping Mark Twain shine with the healthy habits that you've been learning. Thank you.
Do your parents want to come up and take a picture? You can get closer. Thank you, Molly. Congratulations. All right, next up we're going to have Dr. Grammer with McGrath to honor our McGrath students.
All right, so we are recognizing 5 students from McGrath this evening. At McGrath, we live and work to follow our core values of show respect, act responsibly, and be safe and peaceful throughout the day in all areas of McGrath. So we have 5 students that we're going to recognize that were nominated by staff members, students who are always displaying our core values. So our first one is Baha Dinsuroglu. Baha exemplifies the McGrath core values. He is always working hard to do the right thing even when no one is watching. I can count on Baha to be inclusive, helpful, and kind. Baha brings positivity and great humor into the classroom every day and is always trying his best. Our next student is Liliana Renaud. Liliana is a true leader in every sense of the word. She is a person who cares deeply for others, thinks critically, has wonderful ideas, and shares joy with everyone. She is an amazing young woman who is responsible, respectful, and inclusive to all. She is a true embodiment of how we want our students to be both as a person and a passionate learner. And next we have Connor Nix. Connor is the model of our McGrath core values. He is kind to everyone, always tries his best, and is respectful and courteous to everyone. He works hard, does his best work, and helps others do the same. He is a true role model for not only his class, but his grade. He is truly deserving of this recognition. And next we have Nellie Mullen. Nellie is new to our McGrath family this year. She's been a wonderful addition. She has not only embraced our core values, but is a model of them to all. She is kind, responsible, and respectful. She helps anyone in need and is a passionate learner. not least, we have Miss Grace Kunkel. Grace comes to school every day with a smile on her face. She is the definition of perseverance and hard work. She has shown tremendous growth both academically and socially. She is respectful to her peers and teachers, and she is a true joy to have as part of our family.
Smile on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you guys. If anybody else wants a picture before we have them sit down, everybody get good to smell? Okay, good, thanks guys. All right, next up, we have Brentwood Middle School. Dr. Doug Wayner, if you want to come on down. Ryan Flynn, if you will pass those out.
Good evening, everybody. If the students from Brentwood Middle School who are being honored would come forward at this time. Before we get started, I think most of you know we lost our beloved Sean Banks at the end of December, and we lost him in the middle of what was winter break. And so when I talked to the dad and mom and said, what is it that you want the most? They said, we want to hear from Sean's classmates and we want to hear from Sean's teachers. So we were trying to get everything together in about 4 days or so. And all of these exceptional students that you see here stepped up voluntarily and managed to either write a speech that was delivered by them or a speech that was delivered by someone else. And it had a profound impact, not just on the family, but on the wider community. It was their voices that really made it real. It was, we saw through the eyes of a child more Sean's life rather than just from the adults. And it really would not have been nearly as powerful if it were not for them. So what I'd like to do is, rather than me introduce them, because they're also very brave, I'm going to have them introduce themselves and say one part that they remember from their speech.
I'm Ariel. I'm Ariel. I'm Kennedy, and one thing I remember that I said for my speech was, he had a smile that could light up the whole world.
I'm Spencer, and one thing I remember from my speech is he would always be there to tell us to shut up in science when we were being too loud.
I'm Michael, and I remember that he was always telling me to shut up and not talk at lunch.
I'm Matthew, and I remember that, yeah, he was just a fun guy to be around.
I'm Jude. I don't remember anything from my speech.
I'm Charles. I remember I said he was a very kind and good friend to me.
Okay, at this time, would you like to do it one by one? Is that easy? Okay, would like to honor Ariel Willis, number one. Big round of applause for Ariel. Kennedy Carter. Spencer Nelson. Mike Kildare. Matthew Challen. Jude Glass. And Charles Duran. To a grand final round of applause.
So good evening, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Zielinski, honored guests, families, friends of our wonderful Brentwood School District. What a joy it is to stand before you tonight on such a meaningful occasion. One where we celebrate not just academic success, but leadership, service, student voice, and the incredible potential that lives within our Brentwood High School students. At BHS, we are proud of all of our students, but tonight we have the privilege of highlighting 9 exceptional individuals whose contributions, accomplishments, and character are simply extraordinary. I am thrilled to share their stories with you. We're going to start off this evening by recognizing 2 students who are not only being honored here in the Brentwood School District, but are also being celebrated by our partners in the Special School District for achievements that represent years of hard work, advocacy, and leadership. First, please help me welcome Mr. Jack Kilday to the front. Stand right over there, buddy. Congratulations, Jack. So Jack has been selected for the Fred Sy Leadership Academy, which will be happening this fall. Now, this isn't just any normal leadership program. It's a transformative initiative developed to expand the leadership potential of high school students with disabilities. Out of hundreds of students across the region, only 20 were selected, and Jack was one of them. This program focuses on empowering students with skills that go beyond academics, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and civic engagement. Jack's selection shows us that he's not only excelling in school, but that he's someone who's ready to lead, ready to serve, and ready to make a major impact. Jack, your BHS family is so proud of you, and we cannot wait to watch your leadership journey unfold. Jack Kilday. Jack gave me the nod and said I did okay, so I'm feeling pretty good. All right. So next, please help me celebrate senior Lila Durham. Lila, come on forward. Lila gets special favor because she's my office aide. So. Lila is the first ever recipient of the Jane Vickrey Leadership Scholarship, a $5,000 award presented by the Special Education Foundation in memory of a woman who dedicated her life to mentoring young leaders. Ms. Jane Vickrey believed in the power of giving back, and Lila is the perfect reflection of that spirit. She is a proud graduate of the Fred Sy Leadership Academy, and her work in our BHS community has been marked by kindness, compassion, and a deep commitment to service. Lila, your leadership is authentic, your heart is immense, and your impact on Brentwood will be felt long after you graduate. Thank you for showing us what it means to lead with grace and purpose. Jack and Lila, your recognitions are not only well-deserved, they are deeply inspiring. Please give me one more round of applause. So now I'd like to recognize 3 more students who have taken an active role in shaping the future of Brentwood School District. Excuse me. These students served on our Strategic Plan Committee, a group tasked with helping us define and refine goals, actions, and the direction of our school district. Their contributions are not only just symbolic. These students engaged in thoughtful discussions, gave honest feedback, and made sure that the student perspective was heard loud and clear. Please welcome to the front, Senior August Morgan Scott. Junior Jessica Fallon. One little plug for and Jessica, if you guys have not seen been in the main lobby at the high school recently, Jessica was one of our members that created this beautiful mural that we have now in our lobby. So when you get a chance, come by and check it out. It is amazing. Okay? And then Junior Rohan Dixon, please come. Nice little plug for Rohan. Our Scholar Bowl team just won the district championship, and Rohan played a big part of that. So these three dedicated hours of their time to work alongside administrators, teachers, and community leaders. They helped us think more deeply about what's working, what could be better, and how to center the student voice in every decision that we make. Your insights are invaluable, and your willingness to engage in this level of district planning is something that we do not take lightly. Thank you for being bold enough to speak up and wise enough to help guide our next steps. Thank you again to these. All right, and finally, I want to acknowledge a fantastic group of students who took on a very important task, helping us hire 2 critical new leaders for our secondary administrative team, our new 612 assistant principal and our new 612 athletic director. These students served as official members of our interview committees, asking thoughtful and meaningful questions and representing their grade levels with professionalism, poise, and Brentwood pride. Our candidates left those interviews raving about the quality of our student interviewers, saying they felt challenged, inspired, and motivated by the student experience. Let's give it up for, and let's please have them come forward, 9th grade, Violet Abshire. 10th grade representative, Malaya Usar. Is Malaya with us this evening? 11th grade representative, Mr. Maxwell Burlage. And our 12th grade representative, Mr. Zachary Nelson. So you didn't just help us hire great people, you showed us that our students are ready to lead now. Your voices mattered, your questions were sharp, and your contributions helped us find the right people to guide Brentwood's future. So, Board of Education, families, and community, tonight we have seen leadership in action. We've heard the stories of students who are rising to the occasion, stepping into their roles, some roles that many adults are too shy to step in. Okay, lifting up the values that make Brentwood such a special place to learn and grow. Please join me in one final round of applause for these 9 phenomenal students. Who remind us all of what's possible when young people are given the opportunity to shine. Thank you.
Thank everyone for coming this evening. I want to thank our teachers. I see some teachers in the crowd. I want to thank our administrators for being here this evening. And most importantly, I want to thank our families. It takes a village, right? And all of us in here are part of the special village that is Brentwood. And I thank you all for all of your work you do and for letting us work with your children every single day. They are what makes it a very magical place. So thank you all very, very much for your time tonight. So one big last round of applause for all of our amazing students. we transition to the meeting part and let everyone leave and celebrate their accomplishments. We are going to recognize the retirement of one of our very special Board of Education members. I had to write this down. I'm not usually one that gives a speech, but I know that I'm not sure I'd be able to contain my emotion or say the things I wanted to say if I didn't write it down. So forgive me for reading. But we're going to honor Carrie Trostel for her over 10 years of service to the Board of Education tonight. My plan may have failed, I still may get teary-eyed, so just know that. It is my honor to recognize Carrie tonight. After 10 years of unwavering service, Carrie is stepping down from the board, but not without leaving a legacy that will be felt for generations. Even in my short time in Brentwood, it has been evident that Carrie serves with heart, vision, and a deep love for our community. Throughout her tenure on the board, she accomplished many great things for this district. She was instrumental in the passage of Prop B in 2018, which brought $16 million in improvements to our middle and high school, ensuring safer, more accessible, and more modern spaces for our students. And just 2 years later, she helped lead the way on Prop E, securing $29 million to build this beautiful building and to update and renovate Mark Twain Elementary. But Carrie's impact goes far beyond numbers and buildings. She always listens with empathy, with integrity, and with a fierce commitment to putting students first. Every decision she made as a board member was grounded in what she believed was best for Brentwood's kids. She believes in this district and has showed it in every meeting, every vote, and every conversation. Of all of her accomplishments, I know that Carrie is most proud to be the mother of two amazing daughters, one Brentwood alum and one soon-to-be Brentwood alum, Catherine and Emma. Catherine is attending the University of Kentucky and will be joined by Emma next year. Besides serving on the board, Carrie has served as a PTO president and helped in her children's classroom and countless school events throughout the years. Carrie has shown her love for her family and the time, energy, and effort she has poured into this district. She has always wanted Brentwood to be the best it can be, not for just her children, but for all of the children in this community. Carrie, we are beyond grateful for your service, your passion, and your heart. While your term on the board may be ending, we know your support for Brentwood will not. Thank you for everything. You will always be part of our Brentwood family.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. We couldn't have done all of this without you. And to everything that Dr. Zelensky said, she always has the student's voice in mind all the time with all of our votes. It's really impressive, so thank you, Carrie.
Probably more times than you wanted me to.
Every time, every single time. Let's see. Okay. So now we are in the time for citizens' comments. If anyone wanted to share any information with the board this evening, or if you're just here to see all of the recognitions of the children, which is the very fun part, that's fine. So seeing nobody for comments, we are going to move on to Spotlight on Brentwood, which I do encourage you to stay for. It's always a great update on the monthly achievements of our students here in the Brentwood district. So we'll have Tony take the lead on that.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. I'm glad because Dr. Johnson referenced the EHS mural in the front entry, and that is one of our spotlights, so please stick around to see that. All right, so every month it's my pleasure to share some of the very good news that's happening in our school district, our students, our staff, our families, our schools. They're split into 4 categories according to our new 5-year strategic plan. So student success, school culture, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and unified community engagement. And because we did such big celebration already, Dr. Zielinski told me to pare it down. I did my best. It's very hard to do, even in a district of our size. There's just so much good news happening that it's very difficult to pare it down, but I will do my best. So I appreciate you sticking around. All right, so our first one with student success is one of our high school students. Brentwood High School junior, Dinachi Kadunga, recently earned a first place medal at the Skills USA Missouri District competition representing South Tech High School in the Web and Computer Programming category. Web and computer programming students learn how to write and edit source code using several programming languages, including HTML and JavaScript. She has just passed her HTML certification and I believe is taking the JavaScript certification later this month. The students also design, create, and maintain software, databases, and web pages while earning industry certifications. So, additionally, it gets better. As I learned more about this, that's what got me to it, but as I checked in with our high school guidance counselor, and the folks over at South Tech learned a little bit more. Additionally, she has been accepted into Access Point, a career-launching program that offers paid apprenticeships, job-specific training, and guaranteed entry-level employment in partnership with area companies. The program also provides college credit, mentoring, and financial support to help students complete a bachelor's degree. So, and then in addition to that, she also serves as a student ambassador at South Tech for her program, helping lead student recruitment, the volunteer efforts of the school, and student voice and leadership. And then one more fun fact, her dad is also a computer programmer, so it runs in the family. So congratulations to her. All right, so our next spotlight, this is our Project Lead the Way Medical Detectives course in 8th grade at Brentwood Middle School. So this just was last week. Brentwood Middle School 8th graders in the Project Lead the Way Medical Detectives course participated in a hands-on brain anatomy lab. Students examined both external and internal brain structures, identifying key parts such as the cerebrum, cerebellum, brainstem, thalamus, and hypothalamus. And I saw her here. Where's Sarah? There she is, right there. I left your photo out, Sarah. The lab offered a dynamic, real-world look at the nervous system, reinforcing how different brain regions work together to control movement, thought, and body functions. And this experience is part of Project Lead the Way's commitment to engaging students in biomedical science through exploration, discovery, and critical thinking. So that is a great one. And I think, who's that? That's you, isn't it? All right, and then on to school culture. We've got 2 more, so hang with me real quick. And like I saved the best for last, but this one is really good too. So, just last week, it was our honor to celebrate our District Teacher and Support Staff Person of the Year. Our Teacher of the Year on the left there, Brentwood Early Childhood Center preschool teacher Rachel Beard-Curran is known for her nurturing approach and dedication to early learning. And then our Support Staff Person of the Year, BHS and BMS custodian Van Jackson, is known for her reliability, positivity, and strong relationships with students and staff. We were able to get colleagues, family, friends together, worked a little bit of back action with different folks to have some surprises, lots of great moments, and a great way to honor 2 of just many of our wonderful people. So, and finally, our high school mural. So Brentwood High School recently unveiled a new mural just inside the school's main entrance, created by art teacher Tim Rempel and his Artworks students. This vibrant piece features a three-dimensional soaring eagle serving as a bold and inspiring celebration of eagle pride. It was unveiled during an extended advisory period, so it drew a big crowd of students and staff coming to see it as they made their way through. Just a great example to mark a culmination of like a 2-year creative journey from brainstorming to actual hanging on the wall. So a commemorative plaque, you can kind of see it to the left, was designed by Jeff Heinrich, our industrial technology teacher, recognizes all who contributed to this lasting tribute to student creativity and school spirit. So this is a great photo, but you've got to see it in person. And our office is right around the corner from that, so I get to walk by it several times a day. And sometimes you just stop and you look at it and you notice things that you didn't notice or you haven't seen. Or look at that, I can't believe it. It's just an extremely talented group of students to put this all together. So that's all we have for this evening.
Now the meeting will officially start, so if you don't want to stay for that, feel free. You're welcome to go.
A couple late ramps later.
I might be the first McGrath rental for the pavilion.
That is on my to-do list.
No pressure. If you don't get to it, I'll do a backup. But I thought that's where we started. What a great place to end.
We have to update it.
Well, they had like
So it's this time of year.
official, like
Just having
the election poll officials.
I figured everybody who was to the house would have to go to the bathroom.
That was my worry.
And then he went off into that the story about the bar racing. What are you talking about? Oh, for graduation already. Yeah. These things like I would have never thought. Thank goodness he was there. It was just maybe about
we could please have roll call.
Mark Cicero.
Here.
Ryan Dodson.
Present.
Ryan Flynn.
Here.
Keith Ravenberg.
Here.
Katie Stahl.
Here.
Lindsay Spencer.
Here.
Carrie Trostel.
Here. Okay, great. And then that brings us into the reorganization of the board, and it will be the treasurer. So do you have the agenda in front of you too? So the treasurer makes the.
I'll gladly do what I need.
Oh, right here.
You all
Got it.
look
Okay.
Yeah, Kate gave us very detailed instructions,
Which
so
is
we don't.
thank you, Kate. Thank you, Kate. Yes, we all do. So the treasurer makes a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept Katie Clark and Ryan Flynn as members of the Board of Education. Anyone second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then you get to administer the oath. Your last duty here.
So we have requested that we do this over here, so that it's a good slope.
And have to hold the right hand up, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We're saying it together.
Yeah, how do you want to do
Doing it
this?
individually?
Okay. Yeah, I like that better.
Okay. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and for the Brentwood School District, County of St. Louis, State of Missouri, to the best of my ability according to law.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and for the Brentwood School District, County of St. Louis, State of Missouri, to the best of my ability according to law.
Welcome back.
Can we get a motion
Oh,
is made
yes,
for
we
the
do.
old board to adjourn?
That's right.
Yeah, here. I got you on speed
Yes,
dial.
You may see me in your audience still every once in a while.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I might have citizen comments.
Hold on, hold
One
on,
second,
hold
wait.
on, hold on.
We
still have
your.
You gotta do the adjournment.
Yep.
Get adjourned.
And then we had a second?
Yeah, I
Ryan
second.
second.
All right. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Old board is.
Thank
Yeah, it's really bright, so we're kind of scared away, so.
you. Get a hug.
Okay, so I guess I get to call the new board to order?
The new.
Okay.
You're in charge now, Amy.
Yeah, that's really
Superintendent calls
scary.
for nomination.
No, board.
So at first I call
Yep, calls the new
motion,
board.
okay, so we call the new board to order.
Yes.
Okay,
So the superintendent calls the new board to order.
okay, so call the
And
new board to order, and then we need to nominate board president.
I'd like to nominate Lindsay Spencer as board president.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I don't know.
This is your time to air all of your grievances.
Yeah.
Thank you. I endorse your resignation.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Wonderful, we have our new board president.
Thank you.
Again, Lindsay. And now it's time to call for a vice president. Nominations for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Ryan Quinn as vice president.
Any second? Any discussion?
That sounds great. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Great.
New Vice President, congratulations to you both, and I will now hand it over to the board president to run the rest.
Okay, so nomination for treasurer.
I nominate Ryan Dobson for treasurer.
Second.
Great discussion. Thank you for continuing to do this. We appreciate it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then nominations for secretary.
I will nominate Katie Spall for secretary.
Second.
Great discussion.
You sure about that?
Ready.
You ready?
We will teach you how to use the program, I promise.
Oh, great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And we're going to do a couple more. We need to select a delegate for MSBA. And so Mark is willing to step into the more of a legislative leadership role on our board, which I'm really excited about. I don't think we have to do a vote for the selection of these, correct? Okay. Thank you. And then an alternative to MSBA. Keith?
And I can do that.
Okay.
Because Mark won't need
I don't know about that.
Thank you. And then I did talk to Katie as a brand new board member. I asked her to take on an additional role of the special school district, and so she's, as long as you're still willing to do that a few days later,
Yes.
that would be wonderful if you could be our delegate. Mark has done it, Brian has done it, and can give you some feedback or information about it. And as I said, we can always be your backup whenever you need it.
Sounds great.
The special school district was doing great until Mark.
We're sailing while I had.
He was like, it won't be anything. No, it's going.
It's easy, I promise.
They are on the map. There's a great person.
Great. Okay, well, thank you everyone for taking on more leadership roles, and I think we have a very exciting year ahead of us, and I'm thrilled to be working with all of you. Okay, so let's dive in. A motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as outlined.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is approved. And that moves us into our superintendent's report.
Wonderful. So first up, we have Matt Norrid with our 5- and 10-year financial projections.
Thank you all for the opportunity to talk about accounting. I know I say this every time I get the opportunity to do this. I'm going to try to make it as quickly as possible. I think we got it down to about 10 minutes. If we can, we'll save, yeah, we don't. So, but if we could save the questions to the end, then we'll just kind of capture those and try to hit as many of those. And any of the information that we might need to gather, we can get back to you pretty quickly right after the meeting. So again, 5- and 10-year projections. We present this to our community. If it works. I don't know. Okay, great. So, thank you. So we present our 5- and 10-year projections every year. We do update these throughout our year, so as our information becomes more readily available, we continue to add assumptions and variables. So this information is just the most recent available information. So just a couple items to bring out our highest level assumptions. So we have our assessed valuation growth, which makes up the majority of the revenue. Our local taxes make up the majority of our revenue for our public school district. Generally, we show a 1.5% increase in assessed valuation in a reassessment year, which we're going into a reassessment year, and we show a 0.5% increase in a non-reassessment year. We already have our information that's preliminary from our assessor's office, So we increased our confidence level slightly. So we increased that from 1.5% to 2.3%. It isn't the entire amount of potential growth, and we can explain why. The bigger items are our TIF projects expired, so we currently don't have any TIF protested taxes or abatements in place currently. We do have some 353 projects, but we no longer have any TIFs. Collection rate, we're assuming 96% collection rate. This is slightly higher from what we've showed previously. This is based on our most recent 5 years of collection rates, so we did feel a little bit more confident in increasing this amount. We also continue to move our capital project levy in staggered amounts into our operations. We added some items here for legislative impact, which we're going to draw attention to those specific line items. These projections are fully funding our current non-traditional bargaining agreement, and then it's also showing an increase in the cost of our benefits. The most recent number that we've received for benefit increases is 14.1%. We are currently discussing this with our benefit providers. We're part of a cooperating school district, which is an insurance trust. We purchased that through this trust because we're a smaller organization that it's difficult for us to spread out the amount of risk among our staff. So this is the current proposed increase for the coming year. Capital projects, we're planning on funding our current facility plan. The other item is recently we've been going to some tariffs. We did increase a certain amount of escalation in costs in our capital projects to reflect that. If this becomes resolved, we'll remove that in future projections. We did not reduce the scope of our projections, we just increased their cost. Some major legislative history, so Blankenship versus Franklin County. This is a ruling that reset our levy. This happened about 5 years ago. It cost the school district a little bit more than $100,000. Senate Bill 190 and 756, more commonly referred to as the senior citizens tax freeze. So senior citizens this year can apply for a tax freeze up through June 30th, and they won't pay if they're successful in that. Their assessed valuation will continue to grow, but the amount that they're taxed on their primary residence will not increase. Proposed legislation. So the reason why these proposed legislative items are in bold is because they're exactly the same thing as what we presented to you last year, it's just the numbers changed. So these are repeating initiatives that continue to come up. If these pass, we'll move them up next year. If they continue to move forward in the following year, we'll keep them right there and we'll update them accordingly. HJR 4, which is at the bottom, there is some movement in, or lack of movement in that item. So in future sessions, we may remove that. Open enrollment is potential cost impact to the school district. Voucher tax credits continue to reduce general revenue. Personal property freezes, limit our ability to increase our tax revenue, and then reductions of limits of assessed valuation growth continues to hinder our limit our ability to increase our revenues.
We'll share more about those at the legislative finance workshop that we have on May 6th to help you understand more about the impacts.
On the senior tax credit, are we able to estimate the impact of that yet?
Yes, and I can reshare that. We include, so let me save that to the end and I'll tell you everything that we did with that, or at least I'll try to keep it pretty tight. Okay. We did extensive work with that. Myself and Ms. Patty Bedborough, who was the previous CFO of Parkway, worked specifically on our training with St. Louis County and state of Missouri folks. Okay. Assessed valuation. So this is extremely important because this is where the majority of our revenue is coming from. So even though we're seeing these giant raises in assessed valuations, we're only able to capture the lesser of the consumer price index or 5%. So in years where consumer price index was 7%, we got 5%. That 5% happened one time in the last decade. So even though 5% will see that, it's not very common. Even when we talk about how the legislature may discuss limiting the growth in assessed valuation, again, these are responses to events that have happened one time, sometimes in a generation. Total revenue, so this is all of our funds. You'll commonly hear us talk about operating funds, which is our teachers and kind of everything that isn't capital projects or debt service. So this is all of our revenue. across all of our fund accounts. So you'll see overwhelmingly the majority of our funds are received through local taxes, smaller amount through Prop C, which is arguably local taxes, because we have what's called Prop C rollback. So as we receive sales taxes from the state of Missouri, we return that back to our community in part through a reduction in our tax rate. If you're super excited about that, I can show that to you in September. So operating again this is our teachers fund, so teachers' salaries and benefits. And then this is what we refer to as the general fund. You'll see about 92 to 93% is made up of local taxes, Prop C, and then some other. That other could be interest, food service, some very small line items that they're not of huge impact. So when we say 4% is made up of other, we're really trying to hit those high level items. There's also some federal dollars in there as well. Yes.
That was what I was intending to ask. How much
Federal
of that
is tucked away in that 4%. We don't receive a significant amount of funding through federal aid. Ronnie probably more than I, do a significant amount of work trying to make sure that we keep that small amount coming in. But you know, we pay for a couple people and we pay for a couple professional development events, key items that we continue to not burden the local tax revenue with.
Foundation refers to the state, right?
Yeah, so foundation is what we receive through the state of Missouri. It's commonly referred to as a basic formula and classroom trust fund. Both of those offset each other. So when we talk about those, you'll hear funding formulas. Part of it will come through casinos, and part of that will come through local taxes. So the amount that isn't funded through local taxes, meaning what you pay for, the state of Missouri taxes. So whatever you're not paying for state is offset by casino revenue.
And we'll also talk a lot more about those sources at the workshop too, and understanding the formula and impacts.
And some of that is that the funding did not come in the way that our initial estimates came in for sports gambling. Total expenditures, again, just like we said, a significant portion of this is going to be shown as facilities. So this is the current investment that the school district has spending down our bond reserves, which we recently liquidated, spending down the dollars from local proceeds to finish McGrath Phase 2. This also shows any kind of district investment, roofing projects, soffit, fascia, paint projects, things that you might have seen this summer on the high school. This number will continue to decline as we move forward because our bond dollars, what we've spent out of our bonds, is being reflected in capital projects. So operating, you'll see overwhelmingly we invest in our people. You know, we help raise young folks and we hire people, I guess less young folks to raise the little folks. So out of that, about 80% is people. So that's salaries, that's benefits, that's also things like workers' comp insurance. So some of those items that we don't commonly think of as benefits do get tucked away into that 18%. So what do our fund balances look like? So you'll see that our fund balances have been moving up and down. You'll see where that dip probably occurred is probably more what you would think of with pandemic. So that 60% during 21-22 is where that pandemic amount's coming in, and then you'll see pandemic relief funds started filling that, and also the accelerated growth in assessed valuation and local taxes. This is what our current operating budget is designed around. So we are looking at when this snapshot was taken. So again, this is a snapshot in time. So what you're going to see here is not going to be reflected in budget revision number 2. There are other items that are reflected in projections that may not necessarily come to full fruition. So those items are both under and overappreciated, depending on if we're talking about expenditures or revenues. So where are we headed? So 2930 has been our talking point since I've been here about when do we discuss with our community about local support. So 28-29, you'll see that percentage, so let me see if this is going to show up. I don't think it is. So underneath 29, did it? I can't see that. Okay, well, it's not, I can't see it. So operating fund balance you'll see for 28-29 is 29.97%. So that's currently projected. We do still have some conservative figures for growth in there. We also have some conservative numbers for expenditures. So we do have some flexibility in that number currently. The number that we discussed with our school board and we ask for approval is 30%. So we ask our school board if we think that we're going to dip below 30% in that year, we ask for your approval to dip below that amount. We believe based on our cash flow modeling that we can go down to 28%. We've been using 30% as a historical figure. So what that means is that when we go into the next year, we have after we get through 28-29, if we go into 29-30 without additional revenue, 30-31 we could have to ask for short-term borrowing. Now, we can all discuss that. We don't really want to talk about that right now. We've got numbers that have been worked up for it if you'd like me to share those at some point. It is extremely costly for us to borrow. Short-term borrowing in the past for communities would say, well, it's cheap money, right? Well, that was in a market where interest rates were 3%. We're not in a 3% market anymore. So all of those escalations in borrowing are hitting us. And we don't borrow on an annual rate. We borrow on the rate of the cost of borrowing that amount and paying it back and borrowing it for 3 months.
So that levy that you're talking about, it's the same levy that we're doing now pretty much?
So,
are we asking for more on that levy than we are right now?
So what happens is schools have what's called the Hancock Amendment, which means that every time our assessed valuation increases, our levy falls if we're not able to capture that entire increase. So as we continue to operate, we lose our operating levy. So what we would be asking is for what is it that we need to be able to operate for how much amount of time that we plan. So this would put us at about 14 years since our most recent operating levy ask. So a lot of schools go about 10 or even less. So it all depends on how responsible we are with those funds and how we prioritize those spending or that spending. So there's plenty of discussion that we can have probably in a workshop setting, what that dollar amount might look like when we get closer and how we can communicate, how we can inform our community what we're doing with those dollars, how we've appropriately invested that. Sorry, I'm not trying to segue too hard. Just this is something that's constant discussion and constant thinking. That's because I mean this is going to come fast.
So one other quick question: when would you go to vote for the levy in this model here? Would you go in 28-29?
Yes.
So that's when the actual ballots would.
That would be if we're using this model as that design. The April election in 2029 would be the point in time that we would be asking our community for additional support.
Yep.
Question.
Yeah.
In changes since prior year and where we stood in all this, are we trending better than we proposed?
Yes. We're trending about 2% better.
2% better.
Yep. So assessed valuation came in. So what has come in strong and which is an extreme anomaly is personal property. So personal property over the last 2 years has been abnormally high. And you'll see that in, again, I'm not taking a political position here, but you can see that in how Senate bills and House bills are coming through. And you can also see if you have an older vehicle, you assume that that vehicle's value is going to depreciate. I mean, that's just how we've all lived our lives. So to see that the value of my 2012 Prius that's what I do. So that thing like increasing in value blows my mind. So do I pay it? Yes. I don't protest my taxes, but I do think it's silly that my old beater is increasing in value. But that's the common mentality of a lot of folks is that, I've had this vehicle, I should pay less taxes. Because the other thing is that it encourages you to go buy something new eventually. That has not been the recent case. In December of 2024, normalization, what I would call normalization, is starting to occur. We should not be building budgets, and this is the current position of our Department of Elementary, Secondary Education, also the Assessor's Office. I'm not repeating my own thoughts. but personal property growth is not typically a method for applying increases to revenue against, because the assumption is that should not grow. All right. Cool. So what happens is we have to show 10 years. We're not showing an assumption of asking for a tax increase in this model. So what happens once we get out past that? So this is assuming everything is currently the same, limited growth, and continued investment in benefits and people. So we don't make those kind of assumptions until we start getting closer to them. So this is, will show a continued deficit and an increase in that deficit. We obviously would not allow this to happen, or this would not be my recommendation to allow a continuous spiraling hit of money.
Unless they wanted to step.
We're not the federal government.
The state would step in, so that will not happen.
So capital projects, we do discuss capital projects. So currently we are investing 25 cents. So we did have a significant increase in our local tax revenue this year. We put the majority of that local tax revenue increase into operations. This 25 cents generates a little bit more than $1 million a year in revenue. There are other revenue sources that go into this. So some of our state aid gets put into this, also state assessed railroads and utilities and some other funds. Interest income being a very significant factor right now. Again, we don't budget extremely for interest income because we're assuming that at some point that will bottom out. Right now we're running at about 4 1/4. Capital projects. So you'll see how we're continuing to move those pennies. So they're significant amounts of money. Even though we move 10 cents, that's probably around $400,000. So even though you'll see pennies are moving, it doesn't equate to pennies. The other reason why you'll see those revenues start to move down steeply is because we'll be moving those state aid dollars out with them at the same time. And then this is just removing the remaining reserves and spending those down until our tax year ask. We are not severely stopping facilities in this model. If we were in a situation where we needed to, that could be part of our conversation. This is how the fund balance begins to, again, everything is designed to where the 28, 29, 29, 30 years are important for that ask. So this is summary. This is where we generally put a question slide in. So just kind of in summary, 2930 is really where we're talking about needing a tax increase, really asking for that local tax revenue. We've already said this, that our Board of Education does have to authorize us to spend below 30% fund balance. And then, we're not taking a position on political situations, we're solely information. So if there's something that comes up that we're aware of, that we feel is important to public education, we won't take a position on it. We won't tell you how to vote. What we'll say is, this is what's happening, so that you're an informed individual. Dr. Zielinski and I start every week on our legislative call, and at 8:30 we're on that call, and we spend the next 30 minutes listening to potential legislation. So anyway, thank you for your time. There's no action. This is an information item only. Are there any questions?
One other real quick question. How did we get to the point where we're so reliant on local sales tax? Before all this, all this retail came in, it might be you, but
so we're not.
Was the state and the government giving us more?
So
historically, 30 years ago.
So public education isn't relying on local sales tax. We're not relying on local sales tax. We actually, so public schools receive what's called Prop C funding, which means that their local sales taxes all over the state are sent into the state of Missouri, and the state of Missouri distributes those funds through general revenue, through Department of Ed, and send those out to the public schools. Our local tax base supports the city. It does not, and this isn't against the city, so don't hear this way. But they are the main beneficiary of local taxes. We are not. Actually, it's the opposite. I'm sorry, sales taxes. Thank you. So our sales taxes, actually, we don't even get to keep them. So we have what's called a Prop C rollback. So a lot of this is a legacy. A lot of school districts have done away with this. They voted to, Ladue being the most recent one that I can think of, voted to increase their taxes and do away with their Prop C rollback. Part of it, you could say, is that the dollars that we receive through our Prop C rollback, we give that back to our community. So your tax rate might be $3.50, but we give the community members back 10 cents. And we say, you've paid local sales taxes, we're reducing your tax rate, your local tax rate, not your sales tax rate, by 10 cents on every $100, which equates to, I can't remember, it's like about $96,000. So, but you as taxpayers don't pay that amount. Whereas if you were in another municipality in St. Louis County, more than likely you are. And it's also, do you want your sales tax dollars to stay here, or do you want them to go to the rest of the state? Not making judgment.
Next week in May, when we talk about like the funding sources, like the foundation formula, state aid, and what school districts get more in that foundation formula versus those that rely on their local taxes, we'll talk a little bit more about that because it does greatly impact how that's distributed. It does, when you talk about legislation, the impact of legislation is not equal in the state. It's not equal in every district. So understanding that, that impact for Brentwood specifically, but then St. Louis County as a region is important because it is different. Not all St. Louis County districts some of them get more money in state aid and a bigger percentage of their money in state aid than we do. So we'll talk about that to help kind of make sure we all understand that at the workshop.
All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
New person question. So on the second bullet item, if the board said no, what happens? If they skip?
You want the real answer?
Yeah.
The real answer is we start going through restructuring for cost readjustment because we cannot exceed our inflows. We have to be able to support. So if we're in a situation where, let's say, the board says we can't, you're not going to authorize us to go out for local tax. That's absolutely within your ability. What my responsibility is to provide an action plan. I've been through those processes before. I basically dust off the handbook and say these are the options that we can take to balance, or what a lot of people use the euphemism right size. We will make those proposals.
Right size.
Right size?
Right to ship.
Heard all this language. So it's all language for how can we make targeted change that has the most financial impact.
So before we get to that point, we will have had those conversations.
Yes.
So anytime a community, in my experience, anytime a community is going to be going to their taxpayers for an ask of money, you have to plan for the possibility that it may not pass. And so there is the very real, what does that mean? Because it's going to mean things are going to have to change, and funds and all of that has to be restructured. And so before we get even kind of close to that, we will have had some very real conversations around what that would mean, because at that time we'll be asking anyway. I mean, the board will have to approve the ask for the community, so the board approves that as well. And so those will be conversations that we will talk about, all the variables that we can, and levers we can pull should something not go through, or the board not feel comfortable going for the ask.
A big item, when we go for when we ask the community for a tax increase, a big piece of that is what are we going to do with the funds? So we really don't we come with both.
Yes.
But the biggest conversation point is how are we going to use these dollars? How have we been responsible with the dollars that we have been entrusted with? So, is it important for us to continue to attract and retain? Is it important for us to continue to maintain facilities? Is it because we've been in environments where you start to defer maintenance, and you do that in order to continue to avoid cutting folks. 80% of our costs are in people. So when you talk about most organizations that are similar to public education, that's what they're talking about. They just talk around it.
Hopefully. We will have a plan. We will have a plan A and plan B. Hopefully not have to have a plan C, but we will be prepared.
I always have lots of questions.
Yes.
That's okay.
Really good. Those are very very valid questions.
And I will absolutely say, like, those conversations, whether or not it's part of onboarding, whether or not it's in public session, there are conversations to be had, and not, if I don't have the answer, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you I've got to come back and get it.
So knowing that we have the kind of finance overview and legislative workshop, and I'll put this in the weekend update as a reminder, but if you do have questions that you want answered or some clarity that you want to make sure, topics you want us to make sure we address as we're preparing for that, if you can shoot Matt and I an email, we'll make sure that we get any of those. Because there'll be more of a dialogue, a little bit more lengthy that we can talk about.
One thing that I can reshare is I know that Mr. Dotson, you had said Senate Bill 190, so the senior citizens tax freeze. The presentation that we had, Patty Badborough and I did to basically the state of the finance folks of whatever version, and number of people. So we presented that to state of Missouri. We did a webinar, then we also did a slide deck, and then we also did the formulas to say this is how we've done it. We shared that model with everybody in the state of Missouri of how we're getting that basis. Some of the schools, districts, St. Charles County being one of them, their assessor's office said, here's the property values, here's the people, this is the cost of the impact. St. Louis County didn't do that. St. Louis County said, we don't know. So we use Census Bureau data. So Census Bureau data doesn't have 62-year-olds, it has 65-year-olds. It also includes 0 to 18-year-olds. 0 to 18-year-olds aren't usually generally huge property owners. So we back them out of that data set to try to give us an idea of what is the amount of stagnation that will have in that growth. And we can reshare that this week.
Yep.
Cool. Talk about a budget revision?
I was saying, if not, next up is budget revision number 2.
All right. Do I need to do anything? Yeah. Let me put that down. All right, so this is our second budget revision. So every year we present first budget. Our budget process is we provide a draft, then we provide a final reading, then we bring forward generally a first budget revision, which is any purchase orders that were carried over from the previous year. What this budget revision is as we're working through our year, we work to try to stay as tight to our costs as possible, but as we have updates, we continue to add and revise. So if we have dollars that aren't being liquidated or aren't being spent and we're at that time of the year, we'll recapture those dollars and reallocate them. Also, our building leadership and our department leadership, they have their budgets. If they make recommendations that they want to move dollars from, let's say, math into the science coursework, they give us an email to make that recommendation, we move that. So commonly athletics has a budget and they have different priorities and different life cycles, so maybe wrestling. But they have a softball program that they didn't make. We don't recapture those dollars. Those dollars become available to be reallocated within the athletics program. So a big portion of, if you look at the detail in this, a big portion of the information is going to be a lot of little bitty changes. Those are those little bitty changes that have been proposed by the different department and building leadership. The most significant of which are new items, is we were awarded again a grant for $500, a feminine hygiene grant. Then we also are recognizing several interest income increases. This is solely the interest income that has grown from that exceeded our budget. So you'll see significant dollar amounts there. We were not anticipating continuing to have interest rates at the level that we're at. We're at about 4 1/4. We have been much higher than that. Those dollars have been dwindling. But we've been at about 4 1/4 since probably November. So those interest rates are continuing to be generating funds that were unanticipated. Also, a significant amount of these interest income is coming from the reserves, from the bond reserve. So those will start to tailor off into the next year since those funds have been spent. When those dollars are when they're earned, we reinvest them into the bond project and re-spend them into the bond project. You'll see a big revenue number in here for $1.6 million. That number, there's a big revenue number in there for $1.6 million. Hopefully I don't mess this up. which is the release of the TIF reserves.
I can share with Brian.
Perfect. I can't say I remember all that. Those TIF dollars are allocated for capital projects. Those are going to be one-time spends. Those do have a plan for spend down over the next year or two, and those have projects that are earmarked to be spent in the next year to be reinvested. They're one-time revenue, so our intention was, and our recommendation was, make them one-time long-term improvements, investments in our school. They're glamorous things, HVACs, could be security improvements. I know, I like 20-year investments that nobody sees. But that does give us the opportunity to spend those and invest those and not have to look at those projects again over the next, hopefully, 10 to 20 years. Some smaller cost increases. So we are making a recommendation for supporting the transportation for the athletics program. So with the tennis courts being removed or limited the number at Tillis, there's an investment that we're asking for in transportation costs to shuttle kiddos. I think it's with the baseball program as well. So it's safe transportation. And
policy.
yeah. So the other, we have an investment that we discussed earlier this year that we were trying to continue to whittle down, which was the increased cost of our insurance. We did whittle that down significantly from our initial proposal. But we did not make that a budget adjustment in December because we were dedicated to continue to cut that cost. We also had a cost due to athletic, trainers. So the amount that was provided for athletic trainers was about $9,000 short from the initial budget. We did reallocate funds pretty significantly in the athletic budget to attempt to keep this down. We weren't able to meet that in this situation. This one is an action item. We will still plan on having a budget reserve of 71% if we liquidate the entirety of this budget.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 budget revision number 2.
Second.
Discussion?
It's regarding the transportation. I'm assuming that transportation can be used for other activities as well. It's not just targeted for athletics or business.
Well, for right now, it is.
This line item is for athletics.
It is.
The budget line items that are set at the different buildings were established at the beginning of the year, and they've some of those dollars have been funded through, could be participation fees, could be filling with PTO fundraising.
Okay.
Those dollars were initially established, and the buildings are working to try to work.
This is the rental, this is the
Oh.
short-term solution.
Yeah.
This is not.
Oh, okay. I thought
so this is the
I thought it
short-term
was a-
solution. We're not ready to
Got
buy
it.
yet.
Mhm.
So this is to get us through the spring athletic season. We will look into, we're
Okay.
looking into the purchasing of
Okay, that's right.
our own shuttle that will then be ours. And yes, once we buy that,
Then we could use
then
it.
we can use it for everything, for field trips, for
Oh, good.
everything. And that would be the plan, is that it would be used for
Okay.
anytime we have smaller groups, which is actually, as Dr. Hatch means, on a very regular basis. So it should pay for itself quite quickly.
Okay.
If you think of for the spring semester, just spring,
Yeah.
for 2 sports is costing us $18,000 to get them to practice. So the van will pay for itself really quickly.
We have
Very cool.
Tennis and baseball that are not
Question.
here.
And where are they training?
One is in Webster Groves and one is down at Brentwood Park.
So the kids that,
They can't.
yeah.
But they can walk for baseball, but it's not ideal when you want, it's like a mile and something.
It
It's
just
not a
takes too
ton.
much time out of it.
It takes a lot of time, and you've got a lot of equipment, and you've got, energy that is being expanded. So that it's more for tennis, but the thought is baseball kids can take it as well, if they would like to. But tennis, you cannot.
And we've been in conversation with our surrounding school districts about different options. So we have potentially 2 long-term solutions. That would be vehicle, but we need to fully flesh out the cost benefit of
We
that.
can't make that decision quite that quickly, responsibly.
That also
Yeah.
includes track and all spring sports, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Where would we be, because it says after these adjustments, operating fund is 71.33. Where would it be if these weren't?
So
Do you know? You don't even
this,
have to, you don't know.
So this is actually a net benefit because of the amount of interest income that we're recognizing in this.
Okay.
So this is actually increasing our fund balance.
Do you know where that was before that? Just out of curiosity. Don't worry about it. I'll look it up.
I can get you the number.
Okay.
Because all I do is back out the revision.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the more detailed spreadsheet here. Is this budget revision number 2?
Yes.
So it's a net surplus difference of 1.7 million.
If we're talking about the total across all funds, yes.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Warren? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget revision 2 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Dr. Zagora with some additional high school course offerings. It's kind of unusual time of year to be bringing these to you, but it is a very exciting opportunity for our students.
It is. So in December, I brought a new robotics course to you and explained how that was part of our applied computer science pathway, which we're excited that we will have that course up and running next year. As we went through the winter and we had the opportunity to talk with our middle and high school team and had kind of a visioning workshop of where we wanted to start with carrying out some of these ideas of the strategic plan. We brainstormed a lot of really cool and exciting things, but we kind of landed on really one thing that would be practical to do next year, and as a result, we have a couple of new courses that are going to be, that we're bringing to you and asking for your approval to be part of that implementation. So why additional courses at this point in April? One of the things that came out of our visioning session is that for several years now for our 8th grade students, they have had a required world language that is for high school credit. And while this is wonderful for most students and it's a great jumpstart on their world language learning experience, it is not always for every student. We have students who maybe in 8th grade aren't quite yet ready for a high school credit, or world language is not where their passion might be. And so we wanted to open up the option, and I shared this with you in a weekend update several weeks back, but open up that option for students where, while we still encourage them to take a world language and we've shared information about what that 5-year sequence looks like, that students could opt to take an additional 8th grade elective, or we also have a handful of other high school elective courses that they could take for high school credit as an 8th grade student. And so this new arrangement for our 8th grade students opened up some opportunities. There was a bit of a domino effect with what we were offering at the high school. Also, what came out of that visioning session, we identified some opportunities and some gaps in what our pathways looked like in middle and high school, was that we did not have a business offering at the middle school level. We have a really strong business teacher and business program at the high school, but for most of our pathways, there is some kind of introduction at the middle school level of what that looks like. And we, as of right now, don't have a business introduction. And we had noticed some overlap where some things that were being offered in middle school were then offered, I won't say duplicated in high school, but some similar course offerings that then were offered again in high school. On top of this, we do have our business teacher, Christine Tilley, back with us full-time next year instead of teaching 2 of her blocks at the Catalyst program. So Christine's been at the Catalyst program for a few years, and Brentwood students are still able to attend the Catalyst program. Our numbers next year are a little bit lower than they've been, partly because next year's senior class is very small relative to our other class sizes that have been through. And we also wanted to just kind of reset and take this as an opportunity to have Christine support the business program full-time at Brentwood High School and really build toward something like Catalyst, if that's what students choose, or another capstone. And so having Christine back with us full-time next year allows us to offer a couple of new exciting courses. So how did we decide these? As I mentioned, we had a visioning workshop that included our middle and high school principals, myself and Amy and Trevina, and our counselors, our middle and high school counselors. I also met with the elective teachers individually throughout the winter to talk about their programs, what they envisioned for middle school, where they wanted to go with those programs. And then also specifically for our business program, Mrs. Tilley asked her students, what would they be interested in if we were to offer some new business courses, where's their enthusiasm and their passion. And so we are using the student voice to guide these decisions, and we're very excited about what is on the table. So what we are proposing is that for our family and consumer science, we would add a child development 2 class. So we have child development 1. We would add a semester-long child development 2. And essentially those deal with different age groups of children. So the child development 1 is more that infancy and toddler stage, and then child development 2 is more of that early childhood phase. It also creates an opportunity for our students that may take this class to support at our early childhood center and get some practical hands-on real-world experience with child development. And then for our business program, we are proposing a business applications course. So this would be kind of like an introduction to software and tools that would be helpful in not just the business world, really any of us who are working professional jobs. In 2025, introducing our students to, well, yes, they've been using Google tools, but really mastering the use of spreadsheets and documents and Canva and graphic art kinds of programs and building that skill set. So the business applications is one of those courses that we would allow 8th grade students to take if they wanted to take that next year, all the way up to our 12th grade students. That would be a year-long course. And then also, Mrs. Tilley has proposed a semester each, a graphic design course and a social media marketing course. And these 2 courses really came out of that feedback from students about what they would be excited to take, also aligned with where we know there are lots of real-life jobs available, where there is demand for design and social media marketing. And so those would be semester-long courses that we've said here grades 10 through 12. It would be strongly encouraged that students have had some kind of introduction to our business pathway before they take those. So those are our 4 new courses, one that would include our 8th grade students. I also want to clarify that for our 8th grade students, with the exception of students who are taking Algebra 1, which will always be a high school credit, we have limited their high school credits to 1 high school credit in 8th grade. So if they're also taking Algebra, they could get 2. But we wanted to be very careful that we're maintaining a balance of 8th grade is not early high school. We're not trying to push kids through high school too quickly. We also want to recognize that it being the first grades that appear on your high school transcript as an 8th grader, we want to make sure that families and students are making really thoughtful choices and that we are not setting any students up for something that might not be successful for them. And so limiting the option to they can choose one of these courses next year, and then in addition to Algebra 1, if that is the math course that would be next for them. So what does this look like? 6th through 12th grade, family and consumer science. These would be our course offerings. And one slight amendment to this slide. So we had originally slated Foods 1 and Sewing 1 to be 8th grade options, but the way the master's schedule is shaking out for next year is that's probably just going to be the Foods option, not the Sewing option. We do only have the 1 teacher, and she can only do so much. So we would have, however, exploratory courses in 6th and 7th and an 8th grade option for students. So they would have a nice sampling, tasting menu of family and consumer science in middle school. And then when they get to high school, the courses we've offered for some time, as well as that expansion of the Child Development 2 course. Yeah?
Where do you see then sewing fitting in? Do they have to wait until 9th grade, or is this a 2-year loop like we've talked about?
Yeah, great question. So Foods and Sewing, because they're introductory courses, I'm not going to, bet my life on it, but probably would continue to be offered every year. They are popular courses, and because they're introductory in nature, we always want to make sure we have enough courses for those 9th and 10th grade students to try out. We are looking at long-term, and this is in a later slide, of how we can develop kind of a rotation schedule for courses so that we can fill them with more students and not play the guessing game every spring of will the course make or won't it. Our business pathway, we would now have that introductory course in 8th grade for students who choose to take it, but again, that would be with high school students. And then the rest of these courses, with the exception of graphic design and social media marketing, are currently in our course catalog. I will say these courses don't always make every year. Our accounting course, for example, has in recent history not had enough students to be offered. Personal finance, all students have to take, so that's a semester-long class that is required. And then we would continue to offer the Catalyst program to our 11th and 12th grade students.
Again, with the accounting, do you see us building some sort of structure where we for sure will offer it at least every other year?
That would be my goal, is that once we've established that rotation, that if students can, and I think about college course catalogs where this is very common, where, you know, this course is only offered in spring of odd numbered years, for example, that we would be able to map out over a 4 or 5 year period what the offerings would be so that students can make that 4-year plan and be guaranteed that the courses that they wanted would make.
So are any of these like a prerequisite, so is graphic design a prerequisite before social media marketing?
It's not. So the only thing we have slated right now is, and I will say, personally, prerequisites I don't love because I always want to encourage students to try out as many classes as they can. We are encouraging intro to business prior to the graphic design and social media marketing. That doesn't mean that, you know, on a case-by-case basis, we can't make exceptions to that. But there are some fundamentals about understanding the business world that would be helpful in those subsequent classes. So how will we measure our success? Obviously, course enrollment. We want students to sign up and take these courses. In addition to that annual data that we'll collect on course enrollment, program growth. And so what I mean by that is over time, how many students are we seeing enter into these pathways and then stick with them and take a series of courses? How many students are we seeing participate in our co-curricular organizations? So just last month, I asked the board to approve a stipend for the FCCLA student organization. So that would be an example of a co-curricular organization like FBLA or DECA. You know, the ideal would be that students aren't just taking these courses, they are participating in the organizations that get them out into real world experiences where they can do simulations and have competitions, and stick with that program. Maybe it's not every year for 4 years, but that they develop a skill set that they're using in multiple classes over time. And then student feedback. We always want to hear from our students. I think it's important that they are helping to drive the course offerings. I also think it's really important that we are regularly looking at the workforce reports in our region, and we're seeing what jobs in our region are in high demand and how are we helping students become interested and learn about those opportunities, because our students, and I would say this of most adults as well, I've only ever been an educator. I think our view of the world of work can be rather narrow. And so trying to help our students see the bigger picture of what the real working world can be for them. So as we move forward into next year, we'd like to continue to ask our students and our families for input on future program growth. We have started to talk about how we can develop capstone experiences for our 12th grade students. So as we encourage students to enter these pathways, we would love to be able to say in 12th grade, you get to kind of design your own capstone experience that maybe is going to be an internship, maybe it will be service learning, maybe it's going to be a project with other students to improve your school community. But a capstone experience that honestly would be rather unique to Brentwood in that I do think it's absolutely doable that we could create this experience for every 12th grade student. And I think that's not something most districts can say when you're talking about independently and personalized designed learning for every student in a whole grade level. We can do that here and other places can't. And so as we've talked about this, we have tossed around kind of generally like we could have a practical arts capstone, we could have a fine arts capstone, you know, we could have humanities and we could have STEM. So these are all just kind of lofty ideas at this point. But I think our intention is to try to make these very real in the coming years, that a student could map out their journey through high school knowing that in the end of it, they'll get to walk away with something really exciting and a major accomplishment that they got to design. And that gives them real world experience. So along with that, we'd like to continue to build community partnerships, expand real world learning experiences. We have such a great community here, and so many of our community members are already working with our students and willing to take on our students, and so how do we build on that? And then as I mentioned, building an alternating year schedule, some kind of rotation for these courses so that we can guarantee our students and our families that what we offer will be available to you when your time comes to take those courses. So, any questions?
So are any of the courses like for college credit? Is that what you?
So the new ones are not. We do have, I'm jumping back here. I don't believe our FACS courses are. Our Catalyst program is for college credit. The others, because they are lower, available to underclassmen as well, would not be. Certainly that is an important variable, I would say, as we look at the pathways generally.
And we've had those conversations when we had our visioning workshop. We looked at which of these pathways do result in opportunities for college credit, which ones don't. We identified some gaps that we would like to build. So I think these sound so exciting. And then how do you communicate this out to the students? Like we want you to get really excited about a class we haven't offered before, but here's... Right. And we've already done course registration. Yeah.
So that complicates it further. So our wonderful teachers are, by word of mouth, reaching out to students that have taken previous courses and saying, hey, we've got this new thing. I know you're already registered for classes, but I think you'd be really great in this. And I got to say, like, this is something... Every day there's something new that I find very special about Brentwood, but like this is something that when I approach teachers and I was like, hey, would you be interested in offering a new course? Well, here, I've got 5 things I'd love to offer next year. I mean, just the enthusiasm to do it. And then when I said, okay, do you think you could get kids? No problem, I can get kids. Like, I'll go talk to them, we'll get them. So our counselor and our teachers have been working, just pulling students in one at a time, revising course registration schedules, to try to gauge interest in this, should the board approve these courses and we're able to offer them next year.
That's great.
Will there be any other courses that will be dropped off because we're pulling these courses in?
So I don't believe so, and here's what I have learned as I've explored how all of this can work here. We seem to have a spot in high school where, because we are small and we can only offer certain courses certain hours, where we actually struggle to find places to put students. And one of those solutions has been for a handful of students to take courses via Launch, which are online courses, which I will tell you almost 100% of the time I am going to advocate that a student be in a classroom with a teacher and not doing an online course. It's not to bash online courses, they're great for some kids, but these are our kids. We've got great expertise on staff, let's use that. And so in choosing which courses we would offer, and this is why it was so important that the counselors were part of that conversation, because they know where those gaps are in the schedule, not just in the schedule, but in programming too. And so we are confident that we would be able to offer these without losing things that we currently have offered. I will say, will it be 12 kids, or will it be 9 kids, or will it be 15 kids? We don't know. I do think that's why it'll be important to develop that rotation schedule, so that we can better predict where those enrollments will happen year to year.
Right. Yeah, because if a student is already kind of on a pathway and then all of a sudden, that pathway is, shuffling to a different path, that can get very frustrating as a student if they really, I'll use like computer science, for example, you have to go through the prereqs to get to the next class.
Right.
And if that's not offered, that can derail some of that motivation in their experience.
Absolutely, yeah, and we don't want that to happen for any students, so.
If we could have a motion.
Yep, I make a motion to approve what is it officially called?
You could just say additional high
New course
school.
proposal.
The new course proposal, okay.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's great. It is. That's awesome.
Okay, so then that moves us into our Board of Education part of our meeting, and just a few things to go over here. The MSBA new training for you, Katie. I know you can work with Kate to get that scheduled at some point when you're ready to do that. And just as a reminder, we all have annual training that we need to do, and Kate helps us with that as well. So Amy and I have been working together to create an onboarding process that we can use moving forward. So you can see that document is attached. Katie Clark and I met last week to kind of walk through this. One thing that was brought to our attention, not every newer board member has had all of these opportunities to meet with some of our central office staff. So if anything on here is of interest to you, you can absolutely join us and join Katie for some of those conversations around with HR, our finance and facilities, any of those things. Please let us know. We are also going to be doing building tours, and the whole board will be invited, so if it works with your schedule, to go through on any of the building tours as well. Any MSBA delegate report?
We have a new delegate.
We do have a new delegate.
I know nothing.
You're almost ready.
There's not much, but in June is the summer conference, and there will be a delegate assembly, and I know I've gotten some of the information, I'll make sure whatever I got, send them on.
Okay, great. And then last time for you, Mark, special school districts.
No reports.
Okay, great. And then board committee updates.
Finance, we had our meeting and Matt pretty much covered it all tonight, so great
Okay.
job.
Great. We did meet for community engagement with Tony, and we are starting to talk about ways for sponsorships for businesses or community members to help becoming more engaged within the district, and so we're working through details on that, more to come. But I do think our community engagement is going to increase greatly by some of these activities that we're putting together. Any other board committees?
Student experience is getting ready to meet.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then upcoming events. The most important one that is upcoming are Senior Citizens Brunch, which is always wonderful. That's next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Feel free to let Kate know if you're able to attend. I highly recommend it if it works with your schedule. And then there is a list of our upcoming meetings. We've mentioned tonight the May 6th board workshop, which will be filled with good information about our legislative and finance updates. And graduation, 8 o'clock on May 17th, a very fantastic evening for our district. And then there's some more dates on there as well you can review. So with that, if I could get a motion to adjourn to closed session for the reasons stated in our agenda.
I move that we include open session and reconvene closed.
We can have roll call, please.
Mark Cicero,
Yes.
Katie Clark,
Yes.
Ryan Dodson,
Yes.
Ryan Flynn,
Yes.
Keith Ravenberg,
Yes.
Katie Spall,
Yes.
Lindsay Spencer.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We've got some things to sign and some other things to do, so there's a break.
Yes,
There's
there's
a
a
break
break.
here. Look, see how we go.